The Conceited Nobody. Every Tuesday at 8 p.m.
Yo, what's up? We back with another episode, a special episode of Conceited Nobody. Conceited Nobody one-on-one. We airing this on a special day, on Sunday. Days y'all don't usually see us in action. You know, we usually air Tuesdays at 8 p.m. But tonight, this afternoon, we have a special guest. To my right, you see with me, he's not a popular or familiar face, but people in this area and a bit beyond know exactly who he is. If you frequent Instagram, you know him as the page he runs is Where's My Son 2014. We're going to call him L. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just traveled up here to try to get some of this stuff addressed. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's a privilege having you. This is a unique show for me. Like, we've had our one-on-one interviews. We usually just run a regular podcast. But I think that this was one that's maybe probably the most interesting on so many levels. Namely, a family level.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is what you'll figure out during this show to our viewers and listeners is that this is the man whose simple task is just trying to get in contact with a son that he previously didn't even know was alive. How far-reaching that sounds to some of our ears and stuff, but you'll understand fully once this unfolds. First off, let me start it off with saying, trying to figure out how I want to bring it in. I don't like calling me victims, but you've been a victim of so many things, lies, deceits, and false accusations.
Yeah, there's been a lot of accusations and defamation that has been made in relation to me and, you know, my character, alleged activities that I supposedly had done. And, you know, I've never done anything. I actually I've tried to live my life above board. If anybody knows anything about me, there's a lot of twists and turns that I could have taken that I chose not to. And, you know, I've lived a different life than most people would expect someone with my actual last name to live, especially coming from where I come from. But I would say, you know, there's been a lot of accusations and everything that's been made that are completely false. You know, I've simply stated, you know, the entire time, my only goal is to find my son and then stop the defamation. If a specific individual has anything that they want to report about me, I encourage them to do that, you know, and then we'll go through the legal system and have it addressed that way or whatever. But, you know, I like to say that, you know, nothing that has been stated about me as far as stalking, harassment, or sexual assault is true.
And that's almost like the synopsis on the back of a book. Now let's fill in the blanks for the people who are not aware of what's going on. You used to have a relationship with Reagan. That's her name,
correct? Her government name is Reagan, and her social media or pseudonym is Ajna Surah.
Ajna Surah. For you all who don't know, she's the head of the Healing Place little website retreat.
Correct. Well,
you gotta fill in the blanks for me because you know more than I know.
Yeah. So the Healing Place was apparently it started off as an online thing that supposedly turned into a business through some of the connections and everything that she had made. She has been, you know, hosting retreats, writing books and things in reference to her life and making different statements in the book in reference to things that she has experienced. And it's so-called a healing guide to help others heal from different traumas and things like that. Now, the problem is, and I actually, full disclosure, I have not read the book. I've seen inserts and excerpts from it, but the problem is there's a lot of things that need to be tested or verified in the book.
Right.
before people just consume that.
Yeah.
And she claims she's writing another book. But as far as the business aspect is concerned, I will say we have private investigators that's looking at every angle of this specific situation.
Yeah.
And the business entity that is or was the Healing Place or Ajna's Healing Place LLC is actually no longer a valid entity. It was initially established in Texas.
Yeah.
And that entity has been forfeited.
Okay. I want to pause you for a minute because I want to get to that later on.
Mm-hmm.
First, I want to start at the genesis.
Mm-hmm.
How did you and Ajna, I don't know what to call her, Reagan or Ajna. What you familiar with here?
Either or, man. It really doesn't matter to me.
Okay, I want to say Reagan.
The people know her as Ajna.
How did you and Ajna meet?
So we actually met on Facebook through a group that we both were in, a local group here in Indianapolis, where people met up for different events and things like that. I actually saw her perform some spoken word a couple times before we actually met, and then we met in person directly face to face on her birthday in 2013. We started dating shortly after.
What attracted you to her?
Just her ability to craft words, and it was just something about her aura and everything that kind of drew me to her. Probably the same thing that a lot of the people that initially go to her page kind of saw or see in her. It was the same thing that I saw, but then this is the flip side. What I'm experiencing now is the flip side.
So it was initially like just the charisma. It was attractive.
Correct.
Okay. When you met her, what was her disposition, her demeanor towards you? Like, was it reciprocated that same way?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And there's a lot of suggestion that she wasn't interested in me, and she was faking like she liked me and all of this stuff. Well, it's hard for me to believe that, based off of the experiences that we had. And if anybody saw us out in public or anything like that, they would have a sense of what actually was going on. And then we have documented footage and everything of interactions between her and I. And that may or may not come out, but if it does, I'll let people be the judge of whether or not it was an organic relationship.
And in meeting her, did you have any children already?
Previously, yes.
Okay. And how old was your children now, outside of the one that we're searching for?
So I have a daughter who was actually mentioned on the page, which is actually probably the primary reason why this page came out, because there was a threat that was made to her. But she's 19 years old right now.
How would you describe yourself as a father?
I'm a pretty, active father. I mean, if my daughter ever needs anything, she calls me. I'm there. It's hers. Whatever I got is hers, and we make sure that she's taken care of. As far as like being present, I will say, full disclosure, I was in the military. And as everybody knows, we just came out, or we're trying to close out a war that has been going on since actually before she was born.
Yeah.
So, well, actually right after she was born, but that conflict took me away from her more than I would like, but I'm still her father, and we still have a good relationship.
And it's not from you being a lousy parent, it's just obligations and stuff to ensure that she has a better life.
Exactly.
And things like that, just to provide for her. When you got with Ajna, did she see what type of father you was? I know she has children of her own. How was your interaction with her children?
We had pretty good interaction. Like, there was never really any major, issues as far as like trying to do any kind of discipline or anything like that. I mean, if anything, I would try to kind of show her different ways to address dealing with boys. I grew up, in a home with a single mother, and as a boy, growing up with a single mother, I realized that there's a different aspect between a woman and a male child that it could turn a situation. And she was very verbally abusive to them, and this is just my experience, or whatever. Like there were times that I would try to encourage her to find alternative ways to address any kind of disciplinary scenario, and then not put her hands on them and things like that. Because as a boy, I don't know if you, somebody put their hands on you. One of the first reactions is to try to defend yourself, or and then sometimes you forget who this individual is. It's like, wait a minute, let me back up, because this is actually my mother.
And I just want to back up. You said you were raised by a single mother. Correct. What was the relationship like with you and your mother?
So me and my mom had, and still have, a pretty our relationship is up and down, and it's for different reasons or whatever. And like, I'm a very transparent person, but I've always loved my mom, and I always will. We've kind of drifted apart based off of relationships that she had that I didn't necessarily agree with or approve of.
And not, you say you're transparent, but I still don't want to be disrespectful. Are you talking about like with other men?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about her relationship, how she dealt with men?
Not necessarily how she dealt with men, but the men that she dealt with.
And that's what just leads me back to where we was just at. When you was interacting with Ajna and her children, was that in your mind, like how you want to present yourself around them? Like, did you want to be somebody like a role model they could have? You see that they having this embattled relationship with her as far as the verbal abuse. That in your mind be like, let me rectify this as much as I can?
Yeah, like it was something that I tried to address in subtle manners. It was never like a conflict of, oh, you need to do this type of stuff or whatever. Because at the end of the day, those are still her children. But making the suggestion, hey, maybe don't try to whoop one of the kids. Set them in the corner, or saying take something away from them. I come from a family with a military background, so we come up with different ways versus actually putting our hands on our children.
I always tell people that we raised to treat not only ourselves but our children like the slave masters treated us. Like the beat, man. That's how they discipline the slaves and stuff. And I think it's just been passed on from generation. How receptive was she to this to these suggestions?
No, she was actually really receptive. And then when you break it down, she's a smaller lady in stature and everything. And when you break it down to her, like, hey, at some point, these young men are going to be bigger than you, and your physical assaults on them is not necessarily going to be something that is effective.
And it's funny that you say that. Because first off, let me ask you, how receptive were the boys to you? Or is that what she has? She has two boys?
Yeah, she has 2 boys, and then she has a girl that she placed up for adoption between the two. And I guess we'll talk about
how receptive were the boys to you?
They were very receptive. We didn't really have any, contentious moments or anything like that. I think there was one time, I might have had the oldest stand in the corner with some books in his hand. He didn't too much care for that, but afterwards, it was like a moment where we had, and I said, "Hey, look, this is not to make you embarrass you or make you, feel bad. It's to keep somebody from putting their hands on you, or whatever, because you did something wrong. But then to make you think about the actions that you take." In relation to like how you operate and everything like that. And I think the very next day, like, he did something good, and I'm the type of person we reward positive action. So I think I went out and bought him a Spider-Man video game or something, because he really turned around his actions and had a way better day the next day.
So at this point, everything is going on as good as where we like them to go. At what point did her, for the lack of a better word, facade start to come off? Like, when did you start seeing inside of her
so none of the stuff that is currently going on, or like things that are being stated, none of that it started happening until after she found out she was pregnant.
Okay. And just for me, was she still talking to holistic medicine at this point of your relationship?
So she hadn't even really reached that,
Yeah.
you know, that point
Yeah.
as yet. I mean, like, we talked about different things as far as, you know, spirituality and readings and, you know, things like that. But it was never to the current extent of like what the healing place is or represents.
So when you so you were having a relationship. How long were you in a relationship before she got pregnant?
So I think we found out she was pregnant sometime in March. But we had started dating in December of 2013.
How did you feel when she told you that she was pregnant?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I was a little bit anxious. You know, like there was a lot that was going on. Prior to me going to work for Kroger, excuse me, we can blur that out or whatever.
Did you not want that on there?
Yeah, I don't want to actually use there. But prior to me going to work for that national retailer that she mentions in her video, as a manager, I actually worked as a contractor for the government.
Okay.
And I was caught in the government sequestration. So it was. I was taking some time to kind of rebuild, you know, my life and, you know, kind of like where I was, because it was a big hit to me. You know, I went from, you know, 6-figure salary to like half of that.
Yeah.
A little less than half of that. But it was like, okay, this is the scenario. We've conceived a child together.
Yeah.
Now, regardless of what I personally got going on, we got to figure out how we're going to, you know, address this.
I'm a man.
I'm a man about mine,
yeah.
right? You know, I'm gonna take care of my kid regardless.
And you said that this is like when she flipped the switch.
Yeah. So like shortly after she found out she was pregnant, everything kind of just switched. And it wasn't a right now thing.
Yeah.
It was like a gradual. Oh well, you know, like I think that we should, you know, take some time to figure out like what we're gonna do and things like that. Or, you know, we would have conversations. She's like, well, I don't think that I'm ready to be a parent to another kid. You know, and again, these are conversations that we had. You know, she mentioned how some people might respond to the fact that she was pregnant again, and that we didn't know each other for an extended period of time, and there was a lot of conversation about what type of parent she would be. And I'm like, look, I'm here, you know, like regardless of the scenario, you're not gonna have to deal with this, you know, on your own. And like as far as the parenting thing, like everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, like, are we learning from those mistakes and how we're going to move forward?
And at this point, just for the record, she had given birth to 3 children already.
So she had given birth to 4 children.
At this point?
At this point.
Okay.
I'm aware of her
Since
first
you're
child.
aware,
Yeah,
so
her
it could've
first
been
child.
something no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I do know her first child that I'm aware of was a baby girl and supposedly passed away shortly after birth. And then she had her oldest boy. She had her next child, which was the girl that she placed for adoption, and then she had her next son that she currently has with her. And then she was pregnant with Daniel, who is our son together.
So she wasn't like new to childbirth or how child's get to earth.
Correct.
At this point, were you living together?
We were.
Okay, and were you living at your place? She was
So
living-
no, we were actually living at her place, and I'll go ahead and address that now because it's come up. How did that even happen? So I've been working security for quite some time as well. Like that was what I was doing for the government and everything like that before coming back. And when I came back to the States, and while I was working for the retailer, I was also a courtesy officer for an apartment complex that was on the east side of Indianapolis. And we would go back and forth between her place and mine. And the apartment that I was in, they wanted to actually bring in IMPD as their courtesy officer, and they were only limited to. So they wanted both to be IMPD officers. So I relinquished mine, and she was like, "Hey, well, you can come stay with me."
She asked you to come?
Correct.
Okay.
And so like that's how that took place. But we were staying in her apartment together when she actually conceived.
At this time, was she working? Was she employed?
No,
She wasn't?
no.
So were you like paying the bill or?
So I was giving her money for groceries and everything
Yeah.
like that. I was working for a national retailer,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a grocery
Yeah.
store, and like she was driving my vehicle, all kinds of different stuff.
So she was living all the benefits of a personal relationship. Had you two discussed at any point having children?
So, like we had talked about that, but like that's just like any other relationship. When you go into a situation, you want to know what these individuals want out of life, and like what direction that relationship is going to be headed. So yeah, we had discussed having children and everything, and at the time, my daughter was younger.
Yeah.
So, and I told her, I was like, I'm not opposed to having children and having a family, but like if I have another child, it would definitely need to be in a family type environment.
And at the time, you weren't having protected sex with her?
No, we weren't. She actually, and she mentions it herself, so I can talk about it. She actually suffers from a latex allergy, so there were no condoms that were being used on my behalf, but it was my understanding that she had birth control at the time.
Yeah.
She had 2 birth control the little pink cases that that it comes in. Just one was sitting on her dresser, and then she kept another in her purse. I never saw her take it, but obviously she wasn't taking it.
Right.
But there were no other forms of birth control.
So like after she conceived, it was a gradual where she was like changing.
Correct.
What was the biggest change you noticed first in her that was in your mind negative?
So that was actually kind of abrupt. Like I came home from work one day, and I'm here. Like she had a 2-level townhouse, and I'm hearing this ruffling upstairs. So I go upstairs, and like she's like ruffling through the closet, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? Is everything okay?" And she's like, "I'm trying to find my medication." I'm like, "What medication? what medication?" And then like right around the time I'm saying that, a basket of medication falls out.
A basket.
A basket. It was like full of medicine falls out of the closet, and she's like trying to go through it. I'm like, "Wait, stop." And I sit her on the bed, and I say, "What are you trying to find? What is it? Is this a lot of medication? I don't want you to take something, that could harm you or whatever. So tell me what it is you're looking for. I'll help you find it and everything." Like she's like, "Well, I'm looking for my medication. It's for I feel like I'm having a psychiatric breakdown." And I'm like, "Okay." And now at this point, I didn't know that she had suffered from mental health.
And this was like after months of like about 6 months of being together?
Well, this was sometime in March.
Okay.
And I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "I feel like I might need to go back into a psychiatric care center or facility." And I was like, "Well, whoa." And I'm like, "Well, let's talk about this because I didn't really know." And she says, "Well, you might not be safe here because I'm having these thoughts." And I'm like, "All right, so this is a problem." Like,
did she elaborate on what thoughts she was having?
Like thoughts of
killing you,
harming me or herself or maybe even the boys.
At this time, had her interaction with her boys changed at all?
No. Like it had. She wasn't, like I said. I mean, at that point, like we kind of worked through some different strategies and everything that she could use to address them, but like there hadn't been any.
Yeah. What about her social media presence? Did it increase at this time, or did
No. So shortly after we actually broke up, that's when she started making the accusation that I sexually assaulted her.
Okay.
And in 2014, like she says, she never mentioned my name. She says that a lot.
Yeah.
But in 2014, she actually posted on her Facebook page my name and information, stating that she was sexually assaulted or that I claimed that I didn't do anything to her or whatever it was that it said. I mean, we have the post and we might release it, but as of right now, we're holding on to it.
And this was 2014?
Correct.
Prior to her going to Facebook with this, has she mentioned to you that she felt that you had sexually assaulted her?
So prior to going to Facebook, no.
She hadn't.
No.
So when you get on Facebook and then, or did people reach out to you and say, what happened?
Yeah, because like we have several mutual associates.
Mm-hmm.
That knew that we were dating at the time and everything like that, and they said, "Well, hey, bro, like, what is this?"
Yeah.
And males and females, like, hey, she says that you sexually assaulted her. Like,
how did you feel like when you first got asked this?
Bro, I mean, that hurt.
Yeah.
That hurt like bad. Because one, I would never do that to anyone. And like I said, I have a daughter.
Yeah.
Like that just don't fly or whatever. And I believe in karma or whatever. Like. Yeah. I wouldn't want some stuff like that to come back around and impact my daughter or whatever, because man, women are sacred to me.
Have you ever you've never been accused of anything like this?
Never. I had no criminal history, no, you know what I'm saying, like negative. I had traffic tickets, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, all of a sudden now I had somebody that's making this accusation or whatever, and it's like, all right, well, how do I address it? I even tried to address it in 2014. I went to the police. I said, hey, this young lady is saying that
you went to the police?
I went to the police in 2014 myself, and I've even recently gone to the police. I'm like, she's making these accusations or whatever that I sexually assaulted her or whatever. Like,
how would the police respond?
They said if she doesn't report it, there's nothing that we can do.
Is there statute of limitations on rape? Well,
so,
no, because we see the Me Too movement.
Well, I mean, so let's put some stuff in perspective.
Okay.
All right. So the Me Too movement and everything, like, I love the fact that women are speaking up for themselves or whatever. Like, we just need to kind of like rein some stuff in, because like this scenario right here, I'm being accused of something that I did not do. Most guys are trying to suppress women from coming out. Most guys that are guilty anyway are going to try to suppress a woman from coming out or anything like that, and saying, hey, I'm not suppressing Ajna or Reagan in any way, shape, or form. Reagan, if you feel like you were sexually assaulted by me, the statute of limitations for rape is 7 years in the state of Indiana, especially when there's a child that results from that rape. There's a detective unit in Indianapolis, Indiana, IMPD North District, that would love to speak to you about these accusations. Feel free to go and report that. I've been telling you for quite some time that you can report that. Go report that, and then we'll deal with it through the justice system. Women, if you've been sexually assaulted, please do not be afraid to speak up. No matter who that individual is, do not be afraid to speak up. Let somebody know that this has happened to you. Let somebody know in authority so that you can get the proper justice. Okay? Because situations like this degrade your stance when it's actually happened to you. Because individuals that are falsely accusing individuals are making accusations that are unfounded.
That's very well said, and I'm glad, because it's like two sides to this, that where people can be affected. I've always been of the mind that anytime a woman accuses somebody of rape, I gotta know the details. Like, I don't just jump to it, and it's because of situations like this. And it's the other side where it's women who actually get raped, but they can't prove it because of situations like this. And it's sad all the way around. Fast forward. Y'all break up, she's pregnant, the accusations have been made,
right.
You denying them, people choosing sides of imagine. When you never, just for people to know, you've never seen your son in person.
Never.
So when she gave birth, was you in communication with her throughout the pregnancy?
So I communicated with her as much as I could. Like, I never changed my number. She never changed hers. I would text her, try to get updates on the situation. I even, offered to put her on my insurance so that, she didn't incur any expenses associated with the birth. And, I repeatedly, don't contact me, leave me alone, this, that, and the other. And so I lost contact with her around July, where she stopped responding. July 2014.
And let me before we get too far ahead, did you ever confront her about the accusations of the rape?
Yeah, multiple times.
And when you initially asked her, what was her response?
Oh, you know what you did to me, and it was just incoherence.
Did it
really,
did it mess with your mom? Damn, did you have a backtrack? Did I rape you?
Yeah, well, bro, when someone is putting so much stuff out there and it's a consistent thing or whatever, you start to question, whoa. Yeah. And, I will put it out there, one of my associates actually sent me just when we were on our way here to the studio, sent me a message saying, hey, this is what she just posted, and it's something about just every rape is not physically violent or something. If a man does something to you that's against your will, then you've been sexually assaulted. Okay, I just want to address that really quick because one, we were having unprotected sex.
Right. When
you have unprotected sex, one of the consequences of having unprotected sex would be that you can become pregnant. Because you didn't want to become pregnant doesn't mean that event was sexual assault. And there's no way that a man can make you become pregnant. After we actually had that specific sexual encounter, I told her, I was like, hey, I'm not sure if I made it out in time, but we can go grab a plan B. She discussed this on her page. Yeah, we talked about getting the plan B. Yeah. So, this right here states, okay, well, you had a way to address the scenario if it was something, if becoming pregnant was something that you didn't want. And she's making the assertion that the fact that she became pregnant was a sexual assault.
So
and I'll tell you one, she's described the situation as, I laid on top of her and I didn't move. That's not at all what happened.
I seen. Okay, well, he said he destroyed it. But look, no. But so you lose contact in July.
Correct.
And right now you in limbo about the state of, you don't even know the sex of the child right now at this point.
So no, it's a little boy.
No, I'm talking about in July.
Oh
so
yeah,
no, limbo. You don't know what she's
I don't know anything at that point.
You don't know how she's physically.
Right.
You don't know. So when did you find out? Cause like I said, I follow your page. We know that she said that the child died.
Correct.
Who reached out to you and told you this?
So there was actually an individual associate of both her and I. I'll withhold his name for right now.
Oh, I seen it on the. It's on the page.
Yeah, it's on the page, but he's asked me to kind of withhold his name. And he reached out to me through another associate, and they've asked that I withhold his name.
Is there any particular reason why you want his name withheld? Because he was complicit in
it's a lot. Yeah, which is true, and that discussion has been had.
Yeah.
as far as like what that entails
Yeah.
and how we'll move forward.
Okay.
But for right now, we won't
Yeah.
put his name out. But yes, he was complicit in it. He did reach out to me. We were informed that the message that was sent to me was actually drafted by Ajna herself, and just forwarded to me through his phone. Or
Has he apologized about this?
yes.
And the reason why I say it, because this was a person that reached out with maybe the most damning lie, telling you that the son that you are searching for right now had died.
Correct.
And that's right there. When you heard this, what was your reaction that the child had died?
So, I actually didn't even know how to respond to this situation. It was like, all right, am I supposed to be happy or am I supposed to be sad or like what the heck or whatever? I mean, my first instinct was, okay, I need to find out, you know what I'm saying, like what scenario is. I need a birth certificate, death certificate, whatever, because she's still not communicating.
Right.
So, I mean, I probably searched for a birth certificate or death certificate for a year.
Yeah.
Trying to see if he was dead or alive.
And okay, so you still didn't have contact.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forwarding, how did you find out that your son Daniel was alive?
She actually reached out to me.
Do you know what prompted her to reach out?
I have no clue.
And when was this when she reached out?
It would have been October 2017. Well, come to think about it, like he was born in October, so it was probably close to his birthday.
Mm.
So
when she reached, and where are you at this point in time? Are you in Indianapolis?
No, I actually lived in Washington at the
Okay.
time.
And how did she get in contact with you?
I never changed my number.
Okay.
And then my Facebook, like I never like blocked her on Facebook or anything.
How did this conversation go? Like, do you like certain conversations or deals? You remember exactly what you was doing, where you was at?
Yeah,
I
remember
emotion you
exactly
felt.
where I was at, whatever. So when the message came through, actually, as a matter of fact, it came through on Facebook, and I was sitting on my couch in the living room, and it said, it was a picture, and it said, oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't a picture, that was later, but it said someone had reached out to you and said that the baby died at birth. I'm reaching out to let you know that that's not true. That individual tried to do what was, in my best interest and to protect me. And I just wanted to let you know that he's alive. I placed him up for adoption. There's nothing that you could do about it. Search the laws. Something to that effect. And she was like, well, after I've received confirmation that you've gotten this message, I'm going to block you. I'm like, okay. I didn't even respond.
Yeah.
At that point, like, I was pissed.
Mm-hmm.
I was, it was a lot of different emotions and everything that was kind of like running through and I was married.
Yeah.
At the time, because I got married since all of this has gone on. So like, I'm like, oh, so this is another conversation that I have to have with my wife.
Yeah.
Because she's known about this situation from day one.
Right.
Even before we started getting it really serious, I informed her, hey, this is the scenario. This is what's going on. My wife has literally reviewed everything because I have all the text message communication that we've had, all the Facebook communication that we had for all the entire period that we were together. And my wife reviewed that before we started dating. And I said, I want you to have all the information so you can make an informed decision whether or not you want to be with me.
So this it's strange to me because it's vindictive, it's evil. Cause like, why would she contact you out the blue? Be like, this is your son, but you can't get in contact with him. It's the law. Like that. That's just like it's unspeakable for us. Me trying to attain the words, but once you let it permeate in your mind? Like she said, the child is alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like what was your next move?
So, my next move was, again, I started trying to search for information that I could. I contacted a couple of attorneys here in Indiana, most of which told me, hey, we're not even interested in trying to help you.
And these are family attorneys?
These are adoption attorneys.
Adoption attorneys.
And like I literally had one adoption attorney, and I would blast her, but this attorney literally told me, "Oh, if she says that you raped her, you don't deserve to see the child."
This is a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If she says that you raped her, you don't deserve to see the child, and there's nobody that's going to help you ever.
Did you? I mean, this is a little bit off topic, but did you think about like maybe like bringing charges against her? Because that's. I'm sure.
So here's the thing, right? So she hasn't reported anything. So like,
no, I'm talking about the attorney.
Oh,
because that's almost
so
like disrespecting the bar.
Well, so ethically or whatever, it might be a situation or whatever, but I've learned from dealing with different situations and scenarios that like getting the bar or the judicial ethics committee to do anything is it's an uphill battle in and of itself.
Once we get to the point where you find your son, make sure you go back and like, I got my son, or I see my son, because that level of disrespect is insane, especially when you make it an uninformed opinion. You know what I'm saying? It's not professional. So how? Okay, I'm just trying to imagine like getting that kind of phone call. You know what I'm saying? At this point, how old was he when she called you?
So at the time,
in
he would have
2017?
been 3.
Okay. So what was the next step? Like, when did you start searching for him?
So as soon as I got that information, I started trying to find out like where he was and what was going on and everything like that. The way that adoption laws and everything are set up, like they intentionally make it super hard to find anything, especially when you deal with interstate adoptions or sealed adoptions, private adoptions. They make it extremely difficult to find anything. And so I went to the Indiana Department of Health and tried to search for birth certificates and everything like that. I was informed that if he was placed for adoption, that he would have received the birth certificate that was very vague, and then once his adoptive parents took physical custody of him, that his adoption or his birth certificate would have been completely changed to notate the adoptive parents as his parents.
What was like? How did you end up with the page "Where's My Son" 2014? Because it's obviously like a last ditch effort. Like after all, you know what I'm saying, the feasible things, you know what I'm saying, the respectful, or the, you know what I'm saying. How did you end up with this page? Right.
So the page actually was birthed because of the threats that were made. And then the inability to get any kind of traction. So there's been threats made to kill me, to kill my brother, and my daughter, and other members of my family. And when she made to threaten me, they've come from her, they've come from other individuals, and everything like that. There's been police reports done about all of this stuff, and it's all been documented. But like, as far as I was concerned, the threats against me, bro, I'm a combat vet. Like I've literally had people trying to blow me up every day. Right. So it's like I'm not really concerned about that, but when you start threatening my family, you start threatening my daughter, that's a completely different situation and scenario. And then, you know, the defamation and everything that was taking place for almost 6 years now, she has been online basically saying that I've sexually assaulted her and all of this stuff. Just before the page was put out, she started making the claims that I was stalking her and obsessed with her and all of this stuff. So the page was birthed to, one, put an end to the defamation, and as a direct response to like all of the information that she's putting out is inaccurate. So anytime she says anything and it's in reference to me, like, we directly counter.
Wet facts. And like just to put some visuals on the threats or the validity of these threats.
Right.
She has a page called The Healing Place.
Correct.
And her page is Ajna, Surah, where she has a lot of followers.
Correct. She has over like 200,000.
And it's like almost what you would call adherents. You know what I'm saying? People who believe in her, people who look at her in some respects or regards as a religious figure.
Correct.
Somebody who they draw inspiration from. So
correct.
She's capable of the manipulation to have them carry out the threats that she's issuing.
Exactly.
And so it's a need for you to be.
And we've actually dealt with some individuals that specifically had been influenced by her in that fashion. And it wasn't until like we came out with some direct information that contradicted some things that she had clearly stated that we were able to kind of get some
soften it up.
Yeah.
And what has been their reaction once they figure out the truth as opposed to the law? Is there any contrition where they apologize for how they acted towards you?
Yes.
Okay. So just me on the page, I only get to see what you share. Because as you know, if you comment on your page, you block from her page. So I'm not going to go over there and look anyway. One of the most, and it's so all over the place to where you mentioned the basket of medication. It's very apparent that she's disturbed from my perspective. Two things that stood out for me, and I need to know exactly how you feel. I can imagine how you feel, but I want you to tell the people how you feel. When she refers to you and your son, the son that you had together, as the rape daddy and the rape baby. When you first heard that, and how did that make you feel?
I was extremely upset. And like I literally had to take a step back for a moment and kind of like see how that I wanted to proceed at that point. To have those accusations and everything that are made against the individual, okay, you're making accusations against me. Again, we can go to court, we can do the legal thing to, you know, basically, you know, allow me to clear my name, you know. But to refer to the innocent baby as a rape baby, and you know that it's not true, to label the baby with that stigma, it's very disheartening, and like I really don't even know like how to like express like the emotions and everything that I feel, because like this little boy's gonna have to grow up, and at some point he's gonna see this, and it's like, how do you address that? How do you, like, what's the X factor for addressing that?
Yeah, it's tough. Like when I heard it, and then she said, there's no way you can say the stuff without sounding goofy or corny. And when she says it with so much insolence. You know, it's like she's very flippant about it, laughing, joking. Like it's amazing.
Well, it's not. I'm sorry, I didn't but it's not lost on me that a lot of that is directed straightly at me, in order to taunt me in some way, shape, or form. And like it speaks to a level of maturity as well.
Definitely.
And then, you know, again, a lot of the individuals that are on my page that support me and everything have reached out to me and said, hey, I'm a victim of sexual assault. I've experienced this. There's no way that I'm going to make a rap song about, I don't care how, you know, I'm trying to cope with something. It's not going to be through making a rap song.
Right. I mean, and it's just my objective opinion. You can see the mental instabilities in these videos, the back and forth, the contradiction, things like that. And what's most shocking to me is how people still ride on her side. Like it's amazing. But I do know it's people who like this is not right, and they see what she's doing. So right now, do you have any idea or any inkling of where your son is as far as the state or the regional location?
So we think that he's on the East Coast, primarily in the New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut area. We're doing everything that we can to try to narrow that down. Like I said, we have investigators that are working on the case, and like they're pretty much going everywhere they can to try to find out where he is and try to get some information to contact his adopted parents.
And what's your son's name?
So we believe his name to be Daniel, or some version of Sean Daniel. Maybe Sean is his first name, his middle name is Daniel, or you know, either one or the other is his first name. We don't have a last name as of right now. We're looking at possible adoption attorneys that could have participated in the event, but I mean, as you guys know, New York is huge.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of resources and everything that have to go into making those searches. Then like none of their information is online. Like everything has to be manually done. So you know, we can't just go and to a website and type in information and have it spit something back out.
Yeah.
We have to literally go into every surrogate court in New York and in every family court in Connecticut and New Jersey to see if we can find any information.
And I also want to know for the record that this isn't her only secret adoption that she's engaged in.
No, it's not.
And she's selling these children?
So, all right. So the narrative is, oh, she's selling the babies and everything like that. I'll let people be the judge of it. Bottom line is she's receiving compensation in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
The amount of that compensation has varied between the adoptions. Now, in one of her recent videos, she said that I made the accusation that the adoptive parents of her daughter and our son are buying children. Okay, let's clear this up, right?
Yeah.
Most states allow for some sort of financial support for the birth mother to assist them with living expenses, travel expenses, medical expenses, etc. And that varies based off of the law in each state. In Indiana, that is capped at $3,000. Okay? In places like New York and Connecticut, you can see anywhere between $3,000 and $35,000. So there's a big difference.
Yeah. So it's almost, I hate to say this, but I'll be remiss. I want to be myself if I didn't. It's like if you in California, you got dope. Everybody got dope around here, so you can take it further away and get more money. So like that's almost like how they
I mean, if you want to look at it from the trap perspective, it's definitely one of those situations to where if you go out and basically shop for parents or whatever, you can say, hey, look,
There's a
this
buyer's
person
market,
is
seller's
giving me
market.
wants to give me 3,000. This person over here is saying that they got 35,000 that they could support me with financially.
Yeah.
So it's all very convoluted, and to be honest with you, like there needs to be some laws and everything they change that address how these private adoptions and everything take place.
Is there anything that you've been thinking about while you're looking up to, like maybe people have, like, I don't know exactly how you go about that, of course.
So no, I actually have. I have considered coming out and trying to be a voice for it, because like I thought about it, you know, like her daughter's father. I was able to get them in contact with each other, and it's like, okay, well, this is just one scenario and one individual, and she's already impacted 4 lives through this process and misusing this process. How many more people are going through this or have experienced this type of thing? And you know, it's really sad because, and somebody had sent me a still shot of another young lady that had reached out to her and said, hey, I'm considering adoption, you know, and she's like, oh, well, DM me. Well, is this a similar scenario? Like, are you gonna be putting out information to further disenfranchise fathers in their kids' lives, their child's life, you know? So it's definitely something that I'm considering doing.
Right now, what is the ultimate goal? Like, if you were to be able to get in contact with adopted parents and perhaps get to talk to your son, what would be your goal in doing so?
So the ultimate goal is to be a presence in his life. Again, like he's about to be 6 years old. For the last 5 years, all he's known is his adopted parents, and the love that they have for him and the love that he has for them. It's not our intent to remove him from the house or from their custody. And I'll caveat that if they're not complacent in this situation. If it's found that they've known about the situation, they've known that we've been looking for him and everything like that, then we'll have to address that situation from a legal aspect and everything like that. But it's giving the benefit of the doubt. It is not our intent to remove him from their house.
Do you know if she had contact with them?
We definitely believe that she's had contact.
And I'll say that because
and shares pictures and stuff.
And I say that because we know from the post that you shared that she has a contentious relationship with the other adoption family.
Presently.
Yeah.
It initially wasn't like that.
Yeah.
So with the first adopted family, they had a pretty good relationship.
And just for clarity, it's adoption family of
the little girl.
Yeah.
They had a pretty good relationship. It was the actions of Reagan and the deception and everything like that that has placed their relationship in the status that it is now. Like, we do know that, and one of the things that we're concerned about is that she did not disclose her actual mental history or mental health history to the adopted parents. And that's a problem. It's actually a requirement that's done both here in Indiana and as part of the interstate adoption agreement.
So that's not even her just being dishonest or disingenuous. It's the state of Indiana not doing their due diligence, so they should be held accountable also. Because you would think that they were going to medical records in a situation like this.
Well, so there's a clause that says it's the responsibility of the birth mother, right, to disclose that medical history.
So in short, and before we wrap it up, you have a woman who has a mental history, who's been on medication, who's out here dispensing advice to a community of people who are seeking spiritual guidance, and she's profiting off of them. Is that like what's going on with the healing place?
So, one, I'll say she has not been taking her medication. She's self-admitted that she hasn't taken her medication since 2013. We don't think that she's receiving any actual medical advice or medical services for her condition. And we feel like a lot of the videos that are being posted actually display the mental instability that is present.
Is she homeless? Like, can she do all the videos in the car?
No, she's not.
Okay.
She's not homeless at all.
She's probably profiting pretty good financially off her healing place.
So we've estimated that she's made somewhere over $1 million or more through the retreats and sales of books and things like that, all while still benefiting from state assistance and things like that. And there's a lot of other things that we feel like she's benefited from. But yeah, I mean, we think that she's been pretty profitable in selling this story.
Is there any possibility of you and her reconciling? Like, before it goes any further, will you be willing to have a conversation with her? Of course, with other people, lawyers or something present.
Yeah, I'll tell you this much. She doesn't even have to have a conversation with me. She can call my lawyer. She can release information on her social platform or whatever that basically says, my son's name, his adopted parent's name, and his location. And once we have that information, then that's it. And then stop defaming my character.
If you could say anything to either your son or the adopted parents or anybody watching who might know anything, what would you say to them?
So I'm looking for Daniel. I have been looking for Daniel since 2017 when I was informed that he did not die at birth. There's a lot of things that have been put out about me that are not true. I'm currently dealing with addressing those situations in the court system and through the court system. I'm not a violent person. I haven't stalked anybody. I haven't sexually assaulted anybody. If you are Daniel's parents, please feel free to reach out to me. Our Instagram page is at Where's My Son 2014 on Instagram. Please feel free to shoot us a direct message or an email. Someone will get back to you, whether it's one of my associates or my attorney, and we will make contact, reach out, and there's information that you need to have in reference to the situation. And I would love to get the opportunity to meet my son and be a part of his life. Daniel, I've always loved you. I've loved you from the time that I was informed that you were going to be making your presence known on this earth. And if it was up to me, you would have had an opportunity to be with your biological family. And I do want you to know that everyone loves you. Once all this is panned out, I do want you to know that we're not going to break you from the family that you've known. We want to simply be a part of your life. You have family members that love you and that would love to meet you. Brothers and sisters, cousins, uncles, nieces and nephews, possibly on the way. So yeah, we just want you to know that we love you and that we'll be here for you.
Got a big big family waiting to meet you.
Yes.
It's a privilege and an honor to have you here. I was interested in your story ever since I saw the page. it's remarkable to me about how a person seemingly with good character like you can be messed up in the system. It's indicative of the times we're in where they would rather give somebody who's toxic the power as opposed to somebody with stability. But the whole goal of this thing is to create order out of chaos. They like the chaos and stuff so they can control the narrative and control the situation.
Right.
From us at TCK, man, we just wish you luck. And we not only just wish you luck, we doing this video help increase the awareness. And anywhere I can use my platform to help you find your son, resolve the situation, just let me know. I do it. I don't need any compensation or anything. It's just me as a man wanting to help you. I have a daughter, I have a son, and I know how it feels or how it will feel. I don't want to say I know how I feel, but I can imagine what you would feel in this situation. So it's me, and I think that today is National Women's Day.
It is.
And it's never an emphasis on a man's role in the family, unless it's a negative role. If you were somebody bad out here doing crazy and stuff, then that's what they would magnify. But somebody who out here trying to do good, they push it under the rug. And she's able, Ajna, able to just push her narrative and stuff unabashed, you know what I'm saying, nobody opposing her view. But with the information that you present on your page, with the people who come forward, hopefully something will be resolved. I do believe you reap what you sow, and I hope that she finds some kind of, you know what I'm saying, some kind of light in all that darkness that she's thriving in to realize that she's not right in what she's doing. I hope we can find Daniel. But thank everybody for tuning in. Again, thank you for coming. And like I said, anything you need, we can do. We'll do it.
Great.
This has been another edition of the best podcast you never heard of, The Conceit of Nobody. One-on-one, War Around My Trap. See y'all next time at our regular time at Tuesdays at 8. And thanks everybody for tuning in.
The Conceited Nobody. Every Tuesday at 8 p.m.